go, man. All right, everybody, I'm here today with my good friend, Leroy Kincaide. It's awesome to have you here on the show, and I'm actually very excited because one of the things that people talk about a lot in the spaces of personal development, self-help, anyone wanting to live a bigger life is, following your calling, following your purpose, following your passions in life. And I have the blessing to meet a lot of people in this industry, to coach a lot of people. There are very few that actually go after what they truly want to do. It takes so much guts and so much foresight, I would say, and a hell of a lot of faith in yourself and belief, right? So that's why I'm excited for people to be here today, because they're going to hear your story going deeper than just the films you're working on at the moment and what really drives you and get sort of to that core a little bit. But I just want to welcome you to the call today, and how are you feeling over in wonderful England?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's awesome, mate. Absolutely awesome. My brother from another mother.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, yeah. So, yeah, I'm over in the UK currently now. It's nearly 4:05 in the morning. It's bright and dark outside. It's not bright and early in the sunshine. There's no sun yet.
That's all right, man. You've always been a vampire to me. It's like...
Absolutely.
Always, since I've known you.
Nocturnal by name, nocturnal by nature, right?
That's right. Well, that's the name of your company, right?
Yeah. So the film company that I've got is called Nocturnal Pictures. So
there you go.
Inspired by just being up late at night, fueled with caffeine and living on the edge. Yeah.
Dude, I love that. I come from the space of like dancing, right? So it's like if you're not dancing on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I think life is very much like that. You have to be living on the edge to be in the flow of living, I think, because, staying on that comfortable ground, doing the typical, I don't know, when everybody's doing their thing, I sort of find that where the masses go, I tend to go the opposite way.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, do you know what as well? Like, I find the night, sorry, just going off topic slightly here, like, find the night totally a different like energy when it comes to of creativity. I know some people love waking up like excessively early in the morning. I find actually staying up for a period of time when the world is asleep is something really just beautiful about that.
Yeah, I could, I when I first got into, I suppose, personal development books and self-help books, everyone's like, you must get up at 5 a.m. if you want to succeed, and very rarely can you get up, at the crack of noon and succeed. And I'm like, that's just a belief system, isn't it? So if I believe I can do the work, I can do it at any time, right? And I've definitely found since being a dad that you can thrive on a lot less sleep. It forces you to be productive, right?
I bet. Yeah, you need to tell me that sometime.
That's awesome, man. So listen, just give people a bit of a quick background as to where you've been, right? Like, because you have never really followed, I would say, what's called the traditional path, right? And that's why we get along so well. We've known each other, I think, now for 7 years now. And that's why I always liked you, because you stood out from everyone around you and you were not following the traditional path. So tell people a little bit about your background and where you're at.
Oh, and likewise with that, man. Thank you very much. You've been a legend since the first time I met you, and connection is why we're here now. Well, nearly 8 years on, right? So boom, so for that. I guess my journey from where I started to this point forward now is a bit different than most. Typically not a conventional story by any means. I've been someone who's been a bit like, for some of my life, like a bit of a rabbit in headlights. I see something, I scatter for it, or a dog chasing a car type of thing. So I started, some years ago, nearly 20 years ago now, as a professional wrestler. That was my first taste of entertainment. So I wrestled on the circuit for the best part of about 10, nearly 12 years. Had some excellent run in the circuit in the UK. Got to wrestle with some people in the States. Had a tryout for WWE. Almost got signed to WWE. Wrestled in the O2 Arena. So I've had experience in terms of getting somewhere a little bit further than most with that. I found though there was a bit of a burning desire inside of me for film. I was lucky enough to get put forward for like some extra work, probably around about the 2007 sort of period, really close to when my wrestling was taking off quite good. And I just found that I had a passion for film. Like I just found that I had a passion for being on set. I really loved seeing the structure and the setup that goes into making a film or a TV show. You know, there's a lot of people behind the scenes to make like a simple scene work. You know, so I just found that there was an innate curiosity. You know, because I was one of those kids as a child. Like if there was something that I had that didn't really work, rather than try and get it fixed properly, I would take it apart and try and figure out what was going on in there and see if I could do it myself. I would say because of that, I naturally just had a much more curiosity for the nitty-gritty side of film work. And that's where I sort of followed that path, moving on from like 2010, 2011, when I first met you, Vaughan, to now. You know, I've tried many different things, but I found that like specific niche as to where I feel that I flourish. You know, lots of trial and error to finding the way, but that's part of life's journey though, right?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is, so in the spaces that I operate in, which is like startup businesses, entrepreneurship, and getting your ideas off the ground. In your space, you are very much in that industry as well. It's similar thinking, different vehicle, different mechanisms working, but you are very much in like a startup and growth phase, like where you're moving and you're doing it on your own. And what's really interesting is your background doesn't really lend itself to filmmaking, right? Like when I say that, I mean, a lot of people will go, well, I want to be an actor, so they'll go study acting, right? Like they'll go join an acting class, and do a full-on degree. That, you know what I mean? They'll go into their line of work through, say, a traditional model. And startup entrepreneurs, like they don't do that, right? It's sort of like a lot will start at their garage. They won't go do a business course. They'll just like, I got an idea. They'll sit in their garage late at night, like plug away on the computer and like figure out how to sell it. You know, Amazon, eBay, they all started like that really. And that's, I suppose, where all greatness can really start. So for you, what was the catalyst for you, you know, to be like, I'm going to go into this? Because, you know, people might dream about being an actor or an actress or a musician, but they might even learn the instrument. But, you know, going in 100%, that's a different ball game. So what's the catalyst for you? What do you remember what that moment was?
Do you know, it's quite crazy because I'm trying to think of a way to explain this without going crazily at length for ages talking about if we go into the microcosm, like nexus point of when I would say that I realized that perhaps I was destined to do more than I was just doing. I think that came from a place where I'm someone who I listen very much to my inner self. I listen very much to how something makes me feel, opposed to just thinking about what I'm going to do as a next thing. Because I think your instinct takes you in places that your thinking and capacity of thought doesn't actually lend itself to taking you forward. So back in like 2009, I was approached randomly by this girl through Facebook. And this was the time before Facebook and everything was properly like blowing up with social media. I was quite new to Facebook. And I've had a curiosity for probably most of my life about like stuff to do with like paranormal stuff and that. And this girl approached me and was like, Leroy, would you like to come along to this like ghost hunting thing? And I was like, you know, I'm a curious guy. I was like, yeah, let me check it out. This is going to go somewhere, by the way. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to, because at the time I'd been watching Ghost Adventures and stuff on TV. I was like, wouldn't it be cool to like create an online TV show like about paranormal stuff? Bearing in mind, at this point, I'd never edited. I'd never picked up a camera. I'd never done any form of production work. I'd only had experience by doing acting and other random bits and stage performance stuff. And one day I'm on a cross trainer after I got approached by this person about coming along to this ghost hunting thing. And I was like, I've always been one of these people that works very much on an impulse of when I feel pulled to do something. I usually try to not second guess what my nature is trying to get me to do. And I usually find if I venture with that, it serves me much better than trying to navigate my way through thinking around it. And I come up with this concept, this idea, and, you know, fast forward a few months later, we had like basically our first pilot episode of this online TV show. The crazy irony is that I'm not doing that now. But the key and the catalyst of the movement into the trajectory I'm in now stemmed from that. So the level of editing that I had to do, the level of research I had to do, the understanding of writing treatments, the due diligence of sitting in front of a laptop and editing for 5, 6, 8 weeks solidly at like length of 4 to 8 hours plus a day, as well as working on doing other stuff. Like, I'm not doing that now, but what that taught me from then to now is there's some key skills that I gained by doing that now really help. Like, it was a film school of a sort back then. And I find life is very much like this. Sometimes you have to venture down roads less traveled in order to learn new skills that you wouldn't get following conventional routes.
I think that's the key takeaway, because it's interesting. When I first went to England, just before I met you, I had a Starbucks office, right? So I'd have one coffee that'd stay there all day drinking this one coffee, but I'd spend 6 to 8 hours a day plus teaching myself how to do online marketing, how to shoot my own videos and edit them for blogging and selling products online, how to do all marketing, brand, company. That was my university, right, for really understanding how to start and run a proper business. And I think that's really good for people to hear, is that you don't need to have a prerequisite to the industry or field, right? Like you want to have an innate calling to that area, because I believe that is what will drive you, right? It'll drive you to do that long time frame to cut your teeth, because otherwise it feels like work. And when it feels like heavy work, like stuff you don't want to do, it's really hard, right? It's really laborious. So like, how do you feel that this is a calling for you? Is this like your purpose, and is, how would people know how to identify that for themselves as well?
Well, I think if we say a calling, right, or a purpose, or something that we believe we are destined for, I think the message comes to us very differently, but in a sense, it's all going to be the same. It creeps up on you like a little voice inside of you, not necessarily. I don't want to say head, because the problem with head thinking is there's too much of your grandparents, your mum, your nan, your dad, your environments, and there's too much of the irrelevant noise. So unless you've cleared out the clutter, it's very hard to see your way clear through thinking. But you, in your essence, inside, that gut feeling, that thing that we all try to rationalize our way out of trusting, and if we trusted it, it serves us. That thing is where this place of this inner tug, this calling comes from. So I found very much that the sensation that I got when I was editing, the sensation that I got when I was creative writing, the sense of gratification that I felt as a result of just doing something that I'd never done before, that actually spoke to me so loud over time that it became very hard to not hear it. Now, I did dull it down, I'm not going to lie. you know, because you try and rationalize your way out, because what we think we should be doing and what we are actually created to do can be very different.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we live in this system now where we look for gratification from an audience, from an appeal, from how many likes we might have or how many followers we've got. And we want to be in like this celebrity limelight. But if you want that, maybe you might get it. But the issue may be is you might try and go for something that ultimately you were created and destined to do something great. So, or greater in another field. So you could be, for example, working in a bank per se. It hasn't got to be relevant to entertainment. It could be anything. You could be working in a bank, but ultimately you are one of the world's best comedians. Now, you don't realize that, but you had the ability in you. But what happens is we rationalize our way out of our callings and out of our true blessings to actually just choose a path that everyone else goes down. So if you're looking for gratification from a crowd, then you'll look for the loudest noise and applause that you're going to get from a crowd. If you're looking for finance, then you'll look for the fastest, most easiest way to make as much money as possible and wonder why you're not happy when you got money. It's a real juxtaposition of figuring out who you are in the noise, because you know there's a true saying that I believe that God calls many people in their lifetime. Very few answer the call. Mm-hmm. And it's like when you do that, like when you look for the signs will be the things that you can just do and lose yourself in. And you look at the time, you're like, oh my God, it's 9 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours even. And you don't realize that the time is gone. It's something that is really deep down inside of you. It took a lot of, to really figure it out, it took a lot of shutting down egos, if I'm honest. It took a lot of letting go of what I believed I wanted versus what I created to be. Like, at the time, it was 4 years ago, I stepped into this path, shall we say, this path of the calling, right? I've always been someone who's been very, I don't want to say spontaneous, but I've been a very do-it-now person. If there's an idea, if there's something I've wanted to do, I usually will just do it. And then I will figure my way out on the way down, which has served me very well in getting me a lot of no's. Right? I got a lot of, yeah, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like a 9 to 5. No, I don't like working there. I'm not fond of that career. Maybe I'll try something. So I got a lot of no's. But the important thing is to remember that every no is a step closer to a yes. So after trying so much over my life, jobs and various different things in paths and entertainment, one day I was like, you know what, I'm just going to, I've been watching like videos online and like little short films and that. And I was talking to one of my good friends and I was thinking to myself, do you know what? I could make a little tiny short film and short action film. So I did. And that was called Free Man. Now, at the time when I decided to actually make this film, I was, some people may or may not believe in this stuff. I did not believe or know about this stuff until this started happening, and then I just couldn't deny it. I started seeing number sequences very close to the time when I was taking action towards doing this project. And I believe the universal energy of numbers communicates with us when it wants us to know that you're on the right path or wrong path. And I just started seeing 3s everywhere. Really crazy. I was waking up at 3s in the morning and 3s all over the place. And then I looked into it, and it was talking about the ascended masters of congruency, mind, body, and spirit becoming in tune with a purpose. And there was just some magic that I sensed in the work that I was currently doing. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about gratification in anything. It was just the feeling that I was getting from doing this was just like nothing I'd experienced. It wasn't like, wrestling in front of 20,000 people at the O2 Arena. It's not like that. That was something completely different. This made me feel like, could I do this the rest of my life, type of thing. And this is where I would say ultimately the calling is. Now, some people will just call that like a career choice. I personally do not believe I chose it. I think it ultimately chose me. But it chose me in a way where I became aware of it as I was doing it. Like, it wasn't like, I'm just going to go out of my way and then just learn all this stuff and go to college and go to uni and do the typical stuff. Because you got to remember about industries, right, is industries have what it already has. So why try and fit what it already has? You have to be unique and be you in that. Mm-hmm. So the only way I find you can do that is you have to find your path. You can be coached around things, but you have to find that voice inside of you. Your voice, Vaughan, is your voice. Like, I can't have your voice. That's you. Your lane is your lane. It's not my lane. It's like, that's the beauty about like.
You can have a ride in my lane if you like. I mean, I don't mind you bringing a scooter over and just
riding and rolling.
Just for a little bit. Yeah. I'll come in your lane.
Absolutely, man. I'll jump in your lane anytime. No, but it's like, it's really crazy. And I think the thing is a lot of people want things so easy when it comes to like, this thing, the calling, right? The issue when you answer that, right, it does not come easy. It's very torturous, and it's like riding a roller coaster when you have no idea when you're going to get off, because nobody tells you how long the journey is going to be. Mm-hmm. So when you decide to go, okay, maybe this is for me, and you decide to go all in on that thing you find that you really resonate with, you got to eat like a fuck ton of shit. There's no easy options. There is no easy options to making it work, because the reason why everybody isn't doing the thing that you really want to do is because it's bloody hard to get there. And a lot of people by a certain age, definitely age is a factor here. And it's not a factor, but it becomes a factor because we think it's a factor. We put this like prison on ourselves. If we haven't done it by this age, therefore we won't do it. But the truth actually is there's no time or gestation period for your ambitions and goals to be achieved. They can happen overnight, but that overnight success has come as a result of 20 years of work prior in other fields. So it's about like, I would say, like, to really answer the calling, it's about silencing what your head is telling you to do, and it's about feeling your way through it. The thing that makes you feel good, that is probably the closest you're going to get to a direct answer in a short term.
What's the hardest thing that you have had to overcome following your calling in filmmaking? Or overcoming?
I think the hardest thing to overcome with that is seeing yourself as the thing that you want to do, or the thing you're working towards, and nobody else will see that.
Meaning what? Like, so for you specifically, what are you referring to?
So, like, when you like see, when you like visualize something, right? When you see yourself creating work, and you're, in a film, game, like, you'll sit down with an idea for like a year or so, or 6 months. You'll create this script. You'll see it. You'll have the vision for it. You'll have this ideal of how you see it. You can see your company. You can see the whole thing. But because you don't have it yet, no one else will see what you see. The toughest thing is not allowing your own self, your doubts, your worries and your anxieties of what will happen, because it's untrodden territory. You haven't done it yet. When you're trying to find your way through that, the hardest thing is to stay on track, regardless of what the world thinks and what your friends think and what your peers think and what your boyfriend or girlfriend thinks.
Have you had a specific moment where anyone's, almost derailed you, or even if it wasn't derailed you, that it was just like, you've almost wanted to just go, I'm out. Anything like that?
I've not had an actual, like, I would say, moment that derailed me from the work. I've had moments where it was very tough to overcome the obstacle because of, like, when you share something that's near and dear to your heart, mm-hmm. about something you want to create. Like, we all have our birth childs that we sort of want to, wrap in cotton wool, and we want to birth it to the world. This is like our eureka moment. And then you tell someone that's very close to you, very close to your heart, about your idea, and they don't share the same passion, which naturally they won't. They don't share the same vision, which, you'd maybe think they get some of it. And you feel like, well, I just told you this thing, and it feels like I've just said, I'm just going down the road to just get some shopping. Like, it's in those moments are, I think a lot of people won't acknowledge it, but I think those moments are probably like some of the toughest moments that you'll ever go through, because we can be told no, and that's a short term, like, oh no, oh damn it, oh, I'm not going to quit, no, I'll keep going. It's when someone that's close to your heart tells you they don't like something that you are trying to do, or that you feel wakes you up in the morning. Like, those moments there have been quite tough. And, like, for example, I'm sure she won't mind me telling you this, but like Chloe, Chloe is my business partner who I work with. He's also my partner in real life.
Chloe's awesome. Shout out to Chloe.
Awesome. When I first started doing this journey, I saw the vision. No one else saw it. Now I need to share it. I remember explaining to her, like, I want to do this short film, Free Man. Don't you think you should just get an acting agent and just get on with it? That was some of her words. Mm-hmm. I was like, but I feel like there could be something really good with this. I don't know if you have the human hour moment. And I was like, no, I'm doing it. The short film, Free Man, we took to Cannes Film Festival in 2014. We put it in the little short film corner. And as a result, we had a wonderful experience in Cannes and got to mix it up with many different filmmakers and distributors and be introduced to the world of filmmaking at probably one of the biggest festivals there was. Nothing great came of the project, but the experience in itself, it lays foundations.
That was the win.
For the rest of your future. So then I had another idea. Same situation. I'm going to make a fan film, a big fan geek about a computer game called Max Payne. Absolutely had a fan moment about that. And I was like, one day I'm in the kitchen with my nan, I'm listening to the Max Payne music, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make another short film. I'm going to do it. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. Chloe, I'm going to do this short film again. Oh, another one. Oh, this, oh, that. Don't you think? I had the moment, I was like, no, I'm doing it. Had a great experience doing Max Payne. Max Payne became critically acclaimed, as the fans fan film of the game, better than the feature film that was made for like 40 odd million. Like we made this like on like a minuscule budget. Now, again, for me, it's not about it being the best project it could be. It was about what did that journey then teach me as a result? How much better was I as a result of eating dirt and going through the hardships of making the project versus if I just agree with any idea that someone else has about what they see in what I want to create, I almost don't become me. I become a version of me through someone else's thinking, right? So even though this, Chloe is very near and dear to my heart, it's that thing. I'm not the only person who has people that throw doubt in their head. So you've got to think of that. You've got to be so strong and certain inside of yourself that when someone who is your partner, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your baby mama, baby daddy, like if they don't agree with something that you want to do, you have to have the strength to, if they can't see it for you, or if they can't see it for themselves, they won't see it for you. So if you cannot see it for yourself, firstly, that is going to be one of the things that probably will trip you up when it comes to sharing your ideas.
What happened with Chloe? Because she's part of Nocturnal Pictures, right? So
yeah,
tell us the story.
Yeah, so the irony of these moments, and I do like to wind her up about it. Like, do you remember those short films you said don't make? Well, when
You're
we
a
made,
dangerous man, dude.
yeah,
I know you wrestle, but dude, what are you doing?
It's on love. I'm like, we made this happen, but like the whole way through this whole journey, like she was an absolute rock and stuck by me throughout. But I do sometimes like to remind her that because we all have our moments where we relapse in a section, you have to remind yourself like who you are in the midst of the chaos. And I'm like, all of these moments that we've shared, that we've built together, like if I'd have just listened to you at one time, we wouldn't be doing this now, just to let you know. So she's like, Chloe is now a business partner within Nocturnal Pictures, and we are basically now founding and moving forward with our first feature film.
Yeah, which is called
The Last Right.
Yep.
So we have two. One we've been developing the screenplay for about 1 year and a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Facility 7. That's a bit like if you think of 28 Days Later meets Aliens inside of a single facility. That's basically that film. That budget is a bit higher, but what we're going to do is we're going to start off with something that we can manage and finance ourselves, and that's called The Last Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a paranormal film based around true accounts and events of supposed happenings around the world, because fact is always stranger than fiction.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you, because the creating of films is a whole different ballgame, but the sort of background of it all, so there's what you do, your occupation, the work you're engaged in, the labor of love, the creativity. How do you balance that side of things and the relationship that you have, like with Chloe?
Yeah, being in
business together,
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, we're as much as we are business partners together, we're also that couple, right? So we have moments like where nobody's perfect. If everybody has a moment when you might have a little bit more steam in the tank than normal. But I think the key is about when you share a journey of purpose, it's about selecting the right team for that task. And you are a team ultimately and quintessentially when you form a partnership with someone, and it takes a lot of soul searching to get to that stage, to be really real with you. Like, it takes a lot of work, on oneself to be able to accept the relationship enough to be able to work together. Because otherwise what you find is a lot of people end up rubbing each other up the wrong way in the relationship in the workplace. And you've got to remember that like your relationship and work are not the same, but they have to mold together the same to enable you to both flow. So work and relationship are sort of close, but it's soulful because it's almost like, I think, you know, we're pushed and pulled in many different ways throughout our life, right? And we find good people and we find bad people. We find great apples and we find bad apples in bunches. But sometimes we get with people that are right, but they are like, if you imagine like diamonds, when you get a rough diamond, it's not perfect straight away. You have to polish it and chip it off and really polish that to really show the beauty within it. I think when you're building on a relationship, because relationships don't work, you have to look at it like a rough diamond and realize that none of either people are perfect. And
I was just thinking that I think Chloe's the best diamond polisher going around. That analysis.
yeah,
Man, I've got a good polisher downstairs, man. She's amazing. Like, she's up on that, chiseling on me, and like saying, "No, you idiot, that's the wrong idea. Try that one." I'm like, "Oh, you're very good." See, Allie's not in the entrepreneur game, right? So she's on the business space, but I run all my stuff past her, and she just gets it. I'm like, "Oh, why don't I even bother thinking?" Like, I'll just go ask her what to do.
Yeah. But you know, like, because you will naturally have that like synergy as well. Like you will share something with her, and you're probably out of anyone, if you're going to test it on someone because you know she's going to be honest, you probably would ask her.
Oh yeah,
for the most
absolutely. And she'll be like Chloe in a way that she will be very good. You see, I think it's important to ask for people's opinions on certain things and to share your goals and ideas, because you find out very quickly who are your detractors and who are your supporters. And then you know what to do, and then you know what not to share later, right? But with Alison, in the beginning stage of our relationship, it was very much like that, man, where I didn't want to share any of my goals because her paradigm, the way she would think, she couldn't quite understand where I was coming from and thought it was just weird or crazy, right? And she was ultimately a goal of mine, which sounds even creepier and weird. But I was like, I wanted to date her, like, so I put it on my goal board, and she saw that in my house one day. She's like, am I gonna get like kidnapped? I'm like, no, don't worry, it's totally normal. Like, anyway, so like, and it worked out, right? I got a life, we'll be married, we're happy, we're awesome, right? So, but the point is, now we've gotten to a point in our relationship, synergy's there, but I like to share my ideas with her, and I want to express those to her, and I want to know what she thinks, because she's very connected to my purpose and what I'm doing, in the sense of she wants to support that as much as she can, and I support hers. But I'm out in the public and I'm on a limb a lot, right? Like financially, business-wise, there's customers coming in every day. There's different things happening that fundamentally change the course of our life. So it's not like I'm just sitting at home and I need to share a goal about how I'm going to landscape the backyard. Like, these decisions matter, and they actually impact people, and they impact the lives of people that I work with and employ. And so if it doesn't work, that's on me, right? So she has this inside idea, because I've been with her so long, about what should work and what doesn't, and she just gets it. And she has such a different perspective that it cuts through a lot of the noise. Like, I really cloud stuff up and make it too complex because I know too much. Right? I don't know if you find the same thing. So I actually welcome the opposite opinion if she's got it, but it doesn't stop me. Like, there's something she said, no, that's just stupid. Focus your time over here. But I see it differently. And now a lot of the time, and so I'll go work it. Now, I've had times in the past where she's like, you know, I've ignored some of the things she said, gone my way. I've turned back around 2 years later and said, I should have done what you said originally. So, you know, but that's because we have a great relationship. This doesn't work just with any partnership, I would say. What do you think?
No, you know, you got to be right. You've got to be right. And you've got to not be in competition with one another.
Boom.
Like, you know, I think that's something that stifles a lot of people's flourishment in a relationship. especially in a relationship, is because the other one's trying to outdo the other. It's not about who earns more.
Agreed.
It's not about the man and who's the woman. It's a synergy. It's yin and yang. Like you are no stronger than your female counterpart, and she is no stronger than you. You are equal. Like, it's when people see it, like, oh, well, I'm this and I'm that. And, well, but you've done better. When that stuff comes in, you know, unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult to work with someone that's like that. If it's work that you're looking for, or if it's a relationship that you're looking for. But I think quintessentially, we're just looking for people that we want to be able to spend our time with, share our ideas with, and just, you know, like, you know, be a full, true partner in crime. And
absolutely. And share the wins together, you know, and I know from a man's perspective, I always want her to respect me, and to be like, I really respect what you're doing and the fact you're taking these risks. And, you know, that's very important to me. And one of the hard things, I suppose, I'm going to make that comparison again to entrepreneurship. If you're in a startup business, when you begin, it's called bootstrapping. And essentially you have no customers, you have no money, you have no revenue stream coming in. Everything is an untested idea yet. Like, the market doesn't quite understand. You have to educate them and then convert them to customers. So you're doing anything you can to get money. And the first thing you generally do is you do the F's: friends, family, or fools. You know, you ask the three F's to get money. You maybe use your credit card, your savings. Typically, you work a job, right? Like, you're doing whatever you have to do. This is what I did. I'd work a hospitality job whilst starting my business, right? And so, and then selling door-to-door TV. And you do whatever you got to take, right? So when you're in your line of business and there's definitely no revenue stream, right? Like, so you're investing money into a film, and you're not sure if it's going to make money, right? Like, because ultimately you want it to do something at some point, I'm assuming. It's not just a labor of passion. There might need to be some financial recompense, right? Like, for what you're doing. But if you're not doing that, like, how are you getting your needs met? You know, on a daily basis, you know, we've got to pay rent. We've got to get out there and make, you know, got to eat, and of course, you know, do certain things. So the shoestring budget happens for startups. What happens in the film world? Like, what are you currently having to do to make your dream a reality?
Yeah, well, like, as I said earlier on, you got to eat a fuck ton of dirt. Like, that's the truth. You for you to climb the ladder, whatever ladder that be, you know, it doesn't have to be just film, it could be anything, but we'll talk about film here. For you to climb the ladder, you know, you've got to be willing to put in the work, and it's going to take positioning. So the way you would position yourself is you have to set yourself up with the best opportunity that you can to be able to succeed. So for a while, you know, it was like working one, maybe day a week to just earn enough to be able to put some food on the table, like, as in, like, minuscule amount of food, and then just grind the rest of the time. Pick up the skill set, learn about all the things that are relevant to making the first step a very strong one. So, for example, with regards to where it's at now, you know, like, for us to do our first short film, it took me going to Colombia and working on a film project out there on a TV show, like, which was cool. Got paid pretty good, but it's about taking all of that money and putting that now forward into the opportunity, because it is about creating an opportunity for yourself. Now, if you're someone who wants to go out and live the life, if you're someone who wants to go out and look cool in front of people, if you're someone who wants the admiration of crowds, as I was saying earlier on, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, and I can imagine that industry has a lot of people like that. They just want to look good, put the false face on and look the part, etc.
Yeah, like, you know, a lot of people are facading, you know, this is not just entertainment, this is like the world. But a lot of people are all about the show. They want to look like the success. They want to be in this position now. But the truth actually is like, you know, I get it. I get the allure to stuff, having money, I get the allure of having everything now. But the truth is like easy come, easy go. If you get anything very quickly, you don't understand the value of
The
it.
value, yeah.
If you haven't been through the wars and weathered the storm, like, you know, Chloe and I recently invested in a new camera. We've invested in a whole new production setup. So like we are in a much better, stronger position to be able to step forward now with an opportunity that we would, if we'd had it when we'd have filmed Max Payne, the second project, it wouldn't have been utilized. You know, I needed to go through Max Payne first, which meant at that period of time, I needed to be working minimalistic outside of Max Payne so I could enable myself the freedom, because you see, this is the thing with finance. Having finance will render you a lot of freedom and buy your time to be able to put your time into stuff. So you haven't got to worry about necessarily paying bills and normal stuff, like just to live. So I get the struggle when you're on the come up. Like, I'm in no crazy position now. I'm still doing the same thing.
Which is what?
So I do basically door work part-time through choice to be able to just fund a little bit of money just so I can continue.
Yeah. But dude, that's to be honored, right? Like, you're conquering the struggle, and it's so good you be vulnerable about that stuff, because it is the biggest game people play is to try to look what they aren't. Like, I believe act as if, right? But people fundamentally, if especially for anyone listening, if they're wanting to run their business or start a business or want to enact an idea, people buy into vulnerability and authenticity beyond anything else. And like I was saying before, I was working in hospitality, selling Foxtel door to door. And I wasn't proud. I just went and did the work. But it's the best story to tell people, because they're like, oh my God, because you just look like you haven't made. It's like, oh, you make feature films, you must be making money, or you must have access to money, which is just so not the case, right? But people don't understand that. And it's like, no, I'm grinding, man. Like, like I'm not going out on weekends. I'd love to buy my girl all these things. I really want to, but I'm taking that short-term hit. And for her to stay with me, like, that's amazing, because that's crazy, right? Like, for people to stay with you, no matter who they are, when you're going for your dream and for years, dude, that is commitment, right? So what are some of the sacrifices you actually make? On a daily or weekly basis, what are some of those things you're almost depriving yourself of, but it's for the greater good, right?
Yeah, well, like, I had this conversation with a guy earlier on at the gym. Exactly the same thing, practically, I'm about to say.
Good.
Probably one of the biggest sacrifices that you are going to make, which everyone is going to judge you for, is there comes a point when you have your dream and the reality of living, right? The reality sells you a dream that if you just work and make money, you'll be happy. So you can make 100,000, 200,000 pounds work every hour God sends. But inside of you, there's a dream that you wanted to, sail boats around the world, become a champion at something crazy, whatever that is. We usually suffocate the dream to accommodate the money in the short-term fixes and gratification of today. So when you decide to favor your calling, when you decide to favor your dream, and you decide to go for the thing that is ultimately what you believe you're destined for, there comes a big wave of rejection. There comes a wave of not being able to play ball with the rest of the kids. So you can't go on holidays. You can't necessarily buy all the presents you want to be able to buy. Sometimes you can't even buy any presents for some people. Like, I've been there because of the sacrifice that you believe in. As I was mentioning earlier on, when you see yourself as something that you are currently not, but in here you believe that you can achieve it, like What's the film with Will Smith? £7, is it? Is it £7?
I don't think it's got £7, but
yeah, yeah. So like that film with Will Smith where he's going through it, living in the toilets, based on a true story. Where
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness, that's the one. There's another film called I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, Pursuit of Happiness. So that film, absolutely awesome. He had to suffer greatly in order to achieve the goal. Because if anything comes very easy, it will always go easy. And that is your sacrifice that you go through. So you have to be prepared to eat the dirt. You can't go out. You can't do what everyone wants to do.
If that's the case, do you think then, so in the entrepreneur space, you don't really want to start a business to exit it, right? Like you don't typically start it to say, I'm going to start this company so I sell it to Google in 5 years for 50 million, right? If you do, it's sort of like frowned upon as like you should be doing it for a higher good. But the point is that you do it because you love it. But even then, in those moments, you when you're testing ideas and figuring things out, you give yourself you almost like a clause. So you might say, I'm going to run with this idea for 5 years, then I'm going to decide whether I keep going with it or I just do something different, because it can lend itself to time just going by and not really anything happening. It could be 20 years, right? Same with someone who wants to be an author. It's like maybe try writing that book first, give yourself a year to do it, live the life of an author and see if you even want to do that. And then in a year, decide whether you continue or whatnot. That's one of the ways of doing it. It's not the only way, but it's a very clear way of giving yourself a constraint to pursue it. Now, to finish this off, is there a space where you might feel that is applicable for you? Or do you want to just be like, this is my space, I'm in it, but I might change the way I do it, in a couple of years, but I want to always be in film. Is that where you're at the moment? Like, how do you know when to quit or when you should make a new decision?
Yeah, you gotta listen to the voice inside, listen to that.
What if the voice says, go do pottery?
Then that's what you should do.
That's what you should do.
Don't get twisted. Like, the easiest thing to do is what you can do. But the hardest thing to do is to decide to do something completely left field that doesn't actually fit what everyone else knows you for, but then it feels the most natural thing. For me, that is really where the magic lies. Like, you've got to just be prepared at all costs to lay the cards on the table and just say, and this is in anything, if you really want it, how badly do you want it? And how far are you willing to go for you to achieve it? I ask myself this as a question. It's not who I would be if I made it. It's who would I be without it? I could not imagine a life where I would not have this creative expression in it. I couldn't imagine a life where I wasn't creating ideas, where I wasn't making opportunities work for other people, because I get great satisfaction out of, you was at the premiere for Max Payne, right? So when you came to that, for me, the biggest win on that, it wasn't seeing my film up on there. I didn't really care about that. I enjoyed watching everyone else celebrate their work in the film.
Yeah.
That for me was the biggest payday, and one of probably the biggest moment of my life was seeing that. So for anyone else that's thinking about, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? All I would just say is you have to trust in yourself enough to say, how far are you willing to go to make it work? Because if you want a quick fix, if you want to easy in and exit in about 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and hopefully sell your business or whatever you want to do, if money is the main route, then that's what you should focus on. But if you are after something a little bit more fulfilling than finance, finance will come, of course, with a lot of the industries. If you focus and find your niche, then it's going to take all of you to make it. It's going to take not part of, I'll do a bit 50% here and a 20% there and 70% there. You've got to like every day. You've got to focus on it. You've got to decide where you sit in your sector, in your, like, for example, in film, as a director, as a writer, like when people are like, oh, I'm versatile, I can do it all. The truth actually is, us watch horror films more than action films. Some of us watch action and horror more than drama.
Yep.
Where do you sit? Like, I definitely would say that I'm very much more into the horror / action, more lending myself to horror. I love the horror. I love the suspense. I love tension. I love the technical codes of cinematography, of lighting, and of all of the aspects that build and create the atmosphere that makes a very good horror film. Like, that is something I love.
That surprises me, because I thought you were going to say you love like 18th century period dramas. Like, I just thought that's where that was going.
Well, yeah, you know, horror in the
horror in the 18th century. That's the way to do it. Pride and Prejudice.
There we go.
It's nasty.
There we go. Yeah, but you know, man, like, if for any of your listeners, like, you know, for whatever it's worth, I hope if there's some glimmer of shine that me sharing this stuff has helped with anyone, like, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, like, it's all about just knowing that we all have to start somewhere, and you don't have to be great to get started. You have to get started to be great. You know, and I think that's probably like the thing that all of us just got to let go of, like perfectionism.
Perfect, where can people follow you and find you?
Yeah, so you can follow my links. I'm very much an Instagrammer. I love putting pictures and crazy stuff up on
what's
there.
Your handle, man?
Yeah, my handle on Instagram is Leroy Kincaide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Kincaide, or type Leroy Kincaide in Google, or you can find me on Facebook.
Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, thank you, everybody, and go follow Leroy and at Nocturnal Pictures, right? And stay tuned for some of the latest movies coming up. And there's going to be a lot more as time goes on. So stay in touch. And Leroy, awesome to have you, man. Thank you for your time. It's a real blessing, and I'm honored to call you a dear, dear friend, and to have you and Chloe in my life and Allison's life. So thank you for your time, and rock it out, man. I look forward to coming to some more premieres.
Definitely, my friend. God bless you, my man. Thank you very much for everything, bro. Love you, man.